He's immensely seductive. Quite sure he's right. Obsessionally neurotic. Pretty dangerous, in fact.
Let us never tolerate outrageous conspiracy theories.
Do you mean you doubt your powers to convince him?
Say it! Say it!
All right, I'll say it.
Worse than that. What I'm afraid of is his power to convince me.
We're talking about putting a manifestly irresponsible man on national television.
Sweetheart, be reasonable.
What? This is the end game.
All right, everybody. It is Thursday, June 5th, 2025, the 137th day of the Golden Age. I'm your moderator, Chris Paul. Let's be reasonable. Thank you all for tuning in to the interview yesterday with Konstantin von Hofmeister. I thought that was a really interesting discussion, especially to engage with someone who wants the same things we want, generally speaking. He has some different ideas about things, but generally speaking, wants to go away from, wants to turn in the opposite direction from where the world was going. But someone over in Europe who has to deal with an entirely different set of problems. And also, I mean, I guess maybe it's just in the personality differences between Europeans and Americans, but they're going to have to do a lot more fighting. Or hey, maybe the United States will just bail their asses out. But anyway, real smart guy, really interesting guy. And as I said yesterday, a fabulous writer. Check out his work, eurosiberia.net. What else do we have? So here we are on Thursday, subscriber stream, which reminds me, sorry if you're watching on Rumble, but I do have to switch this to premium. So if you're a paid Substack subscriber, please turn to the Substack to watch the rest of the stream. I'm your moderator.substack.com. I'm going to switch this over now, so you will be able to see me over there. All right. And okay, so let's get into it today. Man, what 24 hours we have had. The Trump administration, Donald Trump, the things coming from the Trump administration, the things we were being told by the Trump administration yesterday in the afternoon and into the evening were very newsworthy and very interesting. All signal, no noise for the last 24 hours. People would say the Trump-Elon thing is noise. No, it's not. That's signal as well. And so we have too many things to talk about. As usual, Rocks Cry Out donated 5 subscriptions, so I just want to thank him for that right off the bat, and also said you could have started early and done at least 5 hours today. Well, yes, it's technically true that I could have done that, but that would have been a very bad idea for me, and hopefully we will not go anywhere near 5 hours. But without further ado, let's get into the big story today. We have a celebrity breakup of the caliber of Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez, or Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston, or Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie, or Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston again, or Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez again. And then all the other people too. We've seen so many celebrity breakups in our life. And sometimes it's just all drama at the beginning, and then they come back together because they understand that they're in true love. And we believe it. And we take sides. We say, I'm Team Jen or I'm Team Ben. It's a lot of fun. We get to talk about it and gossip with our girlfriends. And by that, I'm, meaning ladies do it among ladies. I don't gossip about celebrities with anyone, girlfriends or not. But yeah, we've seen this cycle in our lives a million times. This is part of the show. You got to understand it's part of the show. And you don't have to get on board with the idea that everything is a show and that everything is orchestrated to understand that this is happening on a level of the narrative. And whatever the real story is behind that is largely irrelevant, because the outcome, the effect in the world is the same either way. And so we're going to go through how this whole thing has gone down and what it all means. And there's a lot. There's a lot. It's been like a week of this as a very weird buildup. And we've seen that sort of pattern replicate numerous times as well. The cycles of narrative eventually lead to whatever it was we were promised. We begin getting the big payoff. And we are certainly having now. But here's where we started last week. This is from the New York Times themselves, the old gray lady, our paper of record, the New York Times. Never, ever the fake news. Only the real fake news. On the campaign trail, Elon Musk juggled drugs and family drama. So this was last Friday, updated Saturday. So 1 week ago, well, not quite a week ago. As Elon Musk became one of Donald Trump's closest allies last year, leading raucous rallies and donating about $275 million to help him win the presidency, he was also using drugs far more intensively than previously known, according to people familiar with his activities. Mr. Musk's drug consumption went well beyond occasional use. He told people he was taking so much ketamine, a powerful anesthetic, that it was affecting his bladder, a known effect of chronic use. He took ecstasy and psychedelic mushrooms. He traveled with a daily medication box that held about 20 pills, including ones with the markings of the stimulant Adderall, according to a photo of the box and people who have seen it. It's unclear whether Mr. Musk, 53, was taking drugs when he became a fixture at the White House this year and was handed the power to slash the federal bureaucracy. But he has exhibited erratic behavior, insulting cabinet members, gesturing like a Nazi, and garbling his answers in a staged interview. Well, first off, all interviews are staged. There's one other part of this drama that I want to bring out and not forget. So hold for processing just a minute. But Elon Musk is on drugs, we are told. Questions about his drug use and his personal life. He's on ketamine. He's on mushrooms. He's impregnating everybody. You know, all the things. We've gone through all the things. And he's got, let's say, an interesting life. And good for him. But do you think he's on ketamine? Do you think he's on mushrooms? Do you think he was on ketamine and mushrooms while he was campaigning with Donald Trump and while he was working for the Trump administration, to the extent he was actually working for the Trump administration? He is the world's leading recipient of Defense Department contracts. It's always important to remember that. He's also constructing an interconnected web of satellites that can transmit information and energy and currency as part of information. And so that's involved with defense contracts and his space program, his very real space program. We're going to go to Mars, deep in outer space. Twitter, of course. And then you've got Tesla and the next generation of energy storage and transmission. All of these companies have significant roles to play in the future development of our society. They are connected to the Defense Department, and to the extent that Trump is respected as commander-in-chief, which we think is total, and which we might see a week from Saturday, is total. That'll be the display, the optical display on Saturday, June 14th, when we get the military parade, assuming all that goes off as we are told it will go off. So Elon Musk, the defense contractor, on drugs, on ketamine and psychedelics, has all of these personal problems. No one in the Trump administration knew it, and they kept him in the administration because Doge was doing all of these magical things, which was basically and very effectively convincing the country that our government is really deeply corrupt and that USAID is a problem and the NGOs are a problem and all that. All really important stuff. He's gotten a lot done, a lot to be on ketamine and mushrooms constantly to the point where it's a physical problem for your insides, personal drama, while also doing all that work that all of his supporters believe is totally real. So I don't think Elon Musk was doing drugs, but I don't know Elon Musk. Maybe he was. Did the Trump administration know that? How could the Trump administration have not known it if people from the campaign, people familiar with all that, are reporting it to the New York Times? So that's awfully strange. What else is strange? Well, this was from last weekend, the end of last week, let's say, as well. This was actually published on Saturday, but I think the story has been brewing for a little while. Steve Bannon says Elon Musk and Scott Bessent had physical confrontation. Elon Musk allegedly got into a heated discussion with a senior White House official that turned physical during his time as head of the Department of Government Efficiency, according to Steve Bannon, the former chief strategist during President Trump's first term in office. Bannon told the Daily Mail that Musk's turbulent time in the White House took a dramatic turn when he allegedly shoved 62-year-old Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent during a heated exchange. So Scott Bessent, who seems like one of the best members of this Trump administration and the least joke, the least TV character of the significant people in that administration, he got into a physical altercation. Elon Musk shoved him, a 62-year-old man, in the course of their doing business because Elon Musk got mad at their discussions. That sounds impossible. Probably even more unlikely than the ketamine and mushrooms thing. Okay? So both of those stories seem resoundingly fake. And I love Steve Bannon probably more than anyone else. And I also think that he is seeding this exact thing that we are seeing today. Okay? And he's been doing it for a really long time, keeping distance with Elon. I don't know that's the case. I just think that's the case. Okay? Steve Bannon says that's not the case. He says he's been against Elon Musk for the entire time because Elon Musk is employed by the Chinese Communist Party. He receives so much money from them and the Defense Department. We know the Chinese Communist Party and Xi are very bad. We know the Defense Department is very corrupt. Therefore, nobody is overseeing Elon. Trump got hoodwinked, and here we are. Tech oligarch wave. They must have pushed him in. All right, let's get into some of the posts and how this battle went down over the week. We'll see how this celebrity breakup took shape as soon as X, formerly Twitter, loads. X, formerly Twitter, Elon Musk's not free speech site. And before we get into any of the rest of this, let me just state, I fully believe that what's going on today is a farce and will accomplish multiple tasks, some that it might have not even intended to accomplish. Okay? That said, we have to analyze it both ways and at least understand there's a possibility that's not a farce. And so then we take some of this stuff seriously. And to the extent that Elon could prove to be someone who is not actually America first and who's not actually a Trump supporter and was just using Trump and his movement and the fact that a fake election was going to happen to elevate himself and people like him to dominate the public conversation so they could then split off and move on. Well, the first hint that something like that was possible was the fact that Elon said he had a free speech site that everyone knows isn't a free speech site, and people still praise it for him anyway. And of course, Donald Trump helps to sell that story. Okay. So let's see Elon Musk beginning to sour on the big, beautiful bill that he had always supported before. And you'll remember just last week on Friday afternoon, we were talking about Elon Musk in the Oval Office, he and Trump joking around. Trump made a big show out of giving him a big golden key in the Oval Office last week after the House had already passed the big, beautiful bill. And there was no problem. And then they looked up at the golden presidential seal on the Oval Office ceiling, marveling about how cool it was. And Elon was asked about his ketamine use and his weird little black eye and kind of brushed those comments off. Trump didn't seem too upset about it. Neither of them seemed upset about it. Elon had run out his time as a special government employee, as if that designation matters in a real world way. And he was going to move on. So they were announcing that he was leaving, but they would always be together. That's what we were told just last week. And now here we have Elon Musk on Tuesday saying, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." Now, it may well be true that the congressmen voting for that bill know they did wrong. Okay, we don't know the mechanics of this whole thing. We can assume that Trump really does want the big, beautiful bill because there are arguments for him wanting it. He keeps saying he wants it, and he has people like Stephen Miller out there defending the bill very strongly. Okay, it's also possible that in that bill, there is an enormous amount of wasteful spending that was brought in to the process by our unelected congressmen and senators. And to the extent that those items are pointed out, well, then we could remove those. And that's going to help, right? And Trump's hands are clean on that one. Okay, Trump's hands are clean no matter what on the budget. The president submits a budget to Congress. That is a presidential budget proposal outlining the priorities of the administration. It's not, here's this, I'm going to force you to pass it. I mean, I guess it could be, but it's not technically that. It's not constructed as that. And Congress has the power of the purse if we were under a constitutional system. And of course, we're not. So you can scrap the rules there too. And you can believe that the rules are real and that the rules could even be enforced. But the point of scrapping the rules in your head is because then you analyze the situation as it exists where neither of these sides actually care about the rules. Okay? We're past that. All right? So you can go against the bill. You can go against spending if people want to talk about deficit spending even more, as long as it's done in an intelligent way, and it hasn't been done in an intelligent way. But if it is, then great. Get the country to be clear that we should not be spending money on all of this bullshit and that our government does nothing but spend money on bullshit after printing money out of thin air that they then pin to the backs, to the blood and the sweat of the American people. Okay? That debt is just, you are the collateral for that debt. Your interminable work and consumption is the collateral for that debt. That's why they all give us registration numbers. They don't do that. They only do that in Nazi Germany. Yeah, they did it there and they did it here at the same time. And we were just told it was for our own good, for Social Security. Let's keep going with Elon. Wait, did we read? We read about the big, beautiful bill, did we not? Man, there's just so much going on. Yeah, we read about that. All right, so let's keep moving here. So we have various pieces of analysis from Elon over the last couple of days, but most particularly today. Let's get to some of those. Here we are. So Elon Musk, in a reply, says we need a new bill that doesn't grow the deficit. He tries to get some people activated. He says, call your senator, call your congressman. Bankrupting America is not okay. Kill the bill. Bankrupting America is not okay? What do you mean? We're $37 trillion in debt to global regime fiat bankers who have controlled the world for centuries. Bankrupting America to them is the best plan ever. All right. So again, in a real world sense, I think Elon is saying preposterous things on purpose. Okay. I don't know what to tell you. The deficit and the debt don't matter. Right. In a normal situation, they would matter. I get it. The government should not be even a fraction of the size that it is. And it should not be spending the money, and it should not be taxing the people. I'm on board with all that. Okay? Lower spending, the better. Less government programs, the better. Down with all that. Okay? But we don't need to spend this time trying to prove that we know that deficits are bad. Instead, we should understand that we're actually at war with the global regime's fiat bankers. And because of that, and because of the fact that some of the countries we're in debt to are coordinating their activities clearly with Donald Trump, as we'll hopefully get to later, the debt doesn't matter. The deficit doesn't matter. It just doesn't. Congress and the Senate don't matter either. Okay? These are all the regime adjusting to what Trump is doing in whatever way they can make it seem like they are fighting against it while it gets rolled through. Nothing has stopped any of the things that have been happening now for a decade. Okay? And Elon Trump spat is not going to do it. The big, beautiful bill failing is not going to do it. All right? I've said numerous times, I don't want any budget passed. I don't want the government to be open. I don't want the Congress and the Senate to be in session. Get rid of all of it. Trump's purpose is to dismantle the federal bureaucracy. And constitutionally, you don't actually need the Congress to do those things. Now, the law says, the law that Congress has made, and passed illegitimately, of course, all of the stuff about independent agencies, they have to tear that stuff down. They have to make new laws that destroy the agency. No, none of that's true. The president is the plenary authority of the executive branch. All right. If the agencies underneath him are doing things that are antithetical to his agenda, he just fires everybody. We're going toward that point. Okay. We're going toward the point of impoundment. So the executive branch doesn't actually have to pay the money that is budgeted. What is a budget? It doesn't mean you have to spend it all, but they are necessitating the executive branch to spend it all via the agencies they control. And again, all of that can be shut down on the back end. Okay. So again, these bills don't matter. The deficit doesn't matter. The debt doesn't matter. Okay. This is not irresponsible fiscal ideology. Okay. The point is to realize that we are not in the normal situation. We haven't been in the normal situation for the better part of 5 years, if not much longer than that. And we should stop pretending, and we should stop having emotional reactions to what we see on the television and what we see on social media, because it's all bullshit. Okay. Twitter is the new mainstream media. A central narrative gets delivered on 3 television channels, on 3 cable channels, and it used to be 3 and then 4 network television channels. Every night, 6 p.m., people get home from work, turn the TV on while they eat dinner because they don't want to talk to each other, and then they listen to the news, what's happening in the world, and the machine tells us what to think. Okay, so it gets delivered on those 3 and then 4 network channels, Fox, MSNBC, and CNN on the cable channels. all central narrative delivery systems of 20 years ago. And then it begins to move and shift towards social media. And we still have the television, and that still appeals to people who still watch television, but there's not very many of those. And so they have to reach everyone else from a different direction. But they still need to deliver the central narrative. Okay? So the central narrative was delivered on television. The central narrative was delivered on news sites and blogs and people's opinions about everything. And now that is also Twitter. And Twitter delivers the central narrative every day. Do you ever stop and think in the morning when the new controversy of the day has been named? Do you ever stop and think, hey, how'd the person who discovered this get this piece of news so early? And it's always bullshit. It's always some info operator who's dropping some nonsense narrative. This happened down there. This happened at the border. It's all nonsense. Okay? It's just info ops online. They're delivering the central narrative that is generated by military intelligence and global regime intelligence. Okay? And then they pass those messages along to the public over and over again in whatever package necessary to get the entire public to believe that XYZ happened and we have to respond to it this way. Twitter is the mainstream media. All right? I know you think that there's really smart people on there. I know that it seems like it's really fun and it's well worth your time. There's a reason I quit that site a year and a half ago. All right? It's retarded over there. Okay? It is a censored space where the real conversation is kept out of the platform. You know how I know that? Because some of the smartest people I know generally totally believe what's on Twitter and that the political tenor is accurate. But it isn't, okay? They never see the next step because of that info stream. And so we talked about that at long length back in 2022 and 2023 when Elon bought Twitter, quote unquote. Probably didn't buy it. And shortly after that, well, that was the time, roughly the time that I got back on, late September 2022, after being suspended for 2 years. And then the Ron DeSantis simp op started, and I spent 15 months pointing out to everybody what Con Inc. was and what their info ops look like. And I think we nailed that one. And again, it doesn't matter whether or not Ron is kayfabe, just like it doesn't matter if Elon's kayfabe. What you're seeing is that the forces that gravitate toward them as opposed to Trump come out of the woodwork to support them because they think they have a chance to finally get rid of Trump. If we just support Ron hard enough, Trump will be gone, and then we will have gotten through this period without ever having to actually declare our support for Trump, except when we vote, relative to something that we can plausibly call the worst thing imaginable. Okay? There's a lot of people who get their pro-MAGA cred without having done anything aside from saying that they voted for Donald Trump. We can see all those people online. It's the same people that it was back then, people who are obsessed with the Republican establishment, the neocons, and the tech dorks. Okay? That's who Twitter's dominated by. All the smartest people on Twitter, the All-In podcast, and Naval Ramakant, or whatever his name is. Ravikant, I think is his name. These people are normies, okay? Don't know what to tell you. It's because they've spent all their time for the last 5 years huddled around the intellectual kids table, certain that there are things that can't be said there, but also they're getting the whole story, and all of them are very smart. They've figured it all out. That's not true, okay? It's not true that Twitter is the smartest space. Twitter is a space where science lovers and finance lovers and people who want attention have a virtue signaling contest about who's the smartest and most Twittery. And those people get retweeted by Elon because everybody grovels for Elon retweets, because then they can earn regime fiat bucks on Twitter. It's a very stupid platform. And the fact that it is that so many people are revolting against Donald Trump, thinking that they're going to ride the Elon train to ultimate victory, is proof of the retardation on that site. And they're all the smartest and most prominent people, aren't they? I know there's a few MAGA influencers out there who are strong on Trump's side, but not many. Let's keep going with Elon. Elon responds to Rand Paul yesterday. While I oppose increasing the debt ceiling by $5 trillion, I enthusiastically support making the tax cuts permanent and could vote for the big, not yet beautiful bill if the debt ceiling were voted on separately. Well, okay. The spending bill contains the largest increase in the debt ceiling in U.S. history. It is the debt slavery bill. All right, that does sound terrible. I agree. We can all agree that the way the country has spent money for all of this time is, in fact, terrible. I'm down with that. I would never argue with that. Let's keep going. So, in the evening yesterday, Stephen Miller, who I mentioned before, said, I was on the campaign trail with President Trump all across America. He promised in every rally to pass the tax cuts, fully secure the border, deport the illegals, dismantle the criminal gangs, unleash American energy, build the missile defense shield, reshore our manufacturing base, and enact no tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security. To thunderous applause, in speech after speech, he won in a landslide, and he overcame 10 years of lawfare, witch hunts, persecution, and 2 near assassinations to deliver on this extraordinary agenda. Now, all of that is stuff that definitely happened in the narrative and not so definitely happened in reality. But the narrative is all that matters. The House has passed a bill to codify each and every one of these promises, which is why the House should be loudly and enthusiastically celebrated for keeping our sacred vows to the American people. The Libertarian candidate who ran on the Rand platform got 0.5% of the national vote. This isn't hard. The only choice is to keep our promises to the American people. And I would suggest again that if you are a Rand Paul fan or a Thomas Massey fan and you are virtue signaling about your fiscal conservatism while being a libertarian, I would encourage you to remember that the Libertarian Party is gay, and that the only person in this entire scenario who can be reliably trusted, who can be trusted to be reliably on the right side of these things, ultimately, although maybe not now, but ultimately, is Donald Trump. None of these people have a record of accomplishment or principle, okay? Neither Massey nor Rand Paul even voted to object to the electors in 2021 on January 6th. Okay? Whose fault is that? Now, if they're part of some great white hat op, then so be it. All right? And we could say, oh man, I thought there was a chance that was true. Hey, sorry for not giving you more of the benefit of the doubt. I'm totally open to doing that someday. Okay? Till then, they deserve no trust whatsoever. They have not done anything that would warrant our trust, or thinking that they know better than Trump because they're being fiscal conservatives, and Trump isn't being one. That's madness. Let's continue. So today, things began to escalate and also get quite funny. But look at this one. Elon Musk, without me, Trump would have lost the election. Dems would control the House and the Republicans would be 51-49 in the Senate. Well, Elon, unless your $275 million went to rig elections all over the country, that ain't true. Okay? No one in the Republican primary. Let's just analyze it as though elections are real. They're not real, but let's analyze it as though they are, just so that our bases are covered. okay? To the extent that the fake primary was real, and it wasn't. None of those people came anywhere close to defeating Donald Trump, and it had nothing to do with the votes. It had to do with the fact that as soon as they turned on Trump, everybody hated them immediately, even if they really, really liked them before that. And some people, they stayed with Ron. Isn't that interesting that they can go totally anti-Trump and anti-MAGA, and that people who are part of MAGA are just like, oh, no, that's kayfabe. That can't be anything else. Okay, well, maybe it is for the person at the top of that chain, but for everybody else jumping in online and agreeing with that person, they're not kayfabing. That's their opinion. They believe that they are smarter than Donald Trump. And because they're smarter than Donald Trump, they know when Trump is doing things wrong. And so they're going to say that. That's what makes them objective online. So then when they have an option of someone who they know is smarter than Trump and who they're like, okay, well, Elon is smarter than us. Elon knows what he's doing. We got to go with Elon. They leave immediately. Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, Nikki Haley, J.D. Vance, always leaving Trump, always leaving it. The Daily Weimar, The Blaze, Fox News, all these television characters and all these outlets, all the influencers, the Ian Miles Carrolls, the Joe Rogans, the Dave Rubins, all of the people who were on the left and then became on the right, like Russell Brand maybe is legit, I don't know, but Glenn Greenwald, all these people make themselves jokes every time they go against Trump. And every time that happens, fewer and fewer people do it because they realize, oh, no, actually, everybody's really just on board with Trump. Okay? There was no chance that anyone in the Republican primary was going to beat Trump because Trump is the standard by which these other people are judged. And none of them were Trump. All of them were a joke. All of them were establishment candidates. No one was reliably MAGA. And so they were all rejected. And then Trump wins the nomination easily, going away again through fake primaries. There was never any other alternative. The entire process was fake. He had to do it because people can't wake up and think for themselves. Okay? I get all that, but it's still fake. So Trump then wins a fake election, quote unquote, wins, right? For a year leading up to that election, I said all this stuff was going to happen, right? I said, too big to rig means narratively too big to rig. I said that, not somebody else, me, okay? From the very, very beginning, because there was no chance that the media could ever sell to the American people, no matter if Elon's people got on board with it or whatever. All of social media could get on board with it, and people still would not believe that Joe Biden could have beat Donald Trump. And when Joe Biden was trounced on the debate stage and dropped out of the race, Kamala replaced him. And there was not one single moment where the television would have ever been able to convince the American people that Kamala could have beaten Donald Trump. Therefore, there's absolutely no way that Elon Musk helped Trump win the election. He might have helped him sell the narrative, but Trump was already going to win no matter what. There was no narrative that could have gone the other way. So why not align yourself with the certain winner and then take credit for his win? And hey, that's what Ben Shapiro and Charlie Kirk did too. Isn't that crazy? The New York Times even gave them credit for it. Wild, huh? So there was no chance that Trump was going to lose. And the best bet for the regime would be to have divided government at the congressional and Senate levels and have the uniparty, of course, but have the uniparty fill up state and local levels as well. And that's exactly what they did. And they can then subvert Trump's administration, which is exactly what they're doing. And they're doing lawfare, they're doing scandals and subversion and try to ride out these 4 years, all the national injunctions and the rest of it. They want to ride out these 4 years and then take power back. So all of that was easily visible a year before. Now we see it happening. Now we're getting the hose repeatedly. We could have learned these lessons, but we didn't. So we doubled down. Everyone wants to vote hard like 2021, 2022, 2023, 2024. We already have people talking about the midterms nonstop. Midterms. What a joke. What a joke. You need more people with R's next to their name. That's what's going to finally give Trump the power to get done what he needs to get done. He's been getting it done for 10 years. All right. These are story aspects. Midterms. Who believes this shit? Let's keep going. Elon continues, or perhaps this was even earlier. I got my chronology slightly backwards. Elon cites a post from Trump on January 23rd of 2013. He says, I cannot believe the Republicans are extending the debt ceiling. I am a Republican and I'm embarrassed. And Elon Musk replies and says wise words and shows off that Donald Trump tweet. And of course, all the Elon supporters out there and Twitter normies are like, see that? Trump's a hypocrite. They did the same thing when they tried to pin a vaccine genocide on Donald Trump. But you can look back at his old tweets and see that he's always been pretty much anti-vax. So why would anyone believe that? And he told us all the reasons why we shouldn't take the vaccine. And people did it anyway, by choice, because they wanted to travel or they wanted to get into restaurants and concerts. Okay? And then they supported Ron DeSantis. A lot of his people were vaccinated. Why were all those people vaccinated? Well, because they're scientific materialists who trust the experts. And so they did it. And they knew that MAGA was anti-vax. They didn't want to be associated with MAGA. They didn't want to be associated with anti-vax because all of their friends are liberal. And they like being the edgy one at the party, but they don't want to be disinvited from going to the party. And that's what it ultimately comes down to for every wannabe elite in the world. Their social circle matters more than any principles. They don't have principles about what they talk about on Twitter. Give me a break. That's why they're still on there. Okay, let's keep going. Elon Musk says, I guess getting frustrated at some point this morning, whatever. Keep the EV solar incentive cuts in the bill, even though no oil and gas subsidies are touched. Very unfair. But ditch the mountain of disgusting pork in the bill. In the entire history of civilization, there has never been legislation that is both big and beautiful. Everyone knows this. Either you get a big and ugly bill or a slim and beautiful bill. Slim and beautiful is the way. Well, okay. That sounds great. He was replying to an account called CB Doge, and these were Trump's comments today about Elon Musk. I guess we can just go ahead and play this.
Mandate, and which was a lot of money.
Apologies. Let's start back there and do this the right way. Here we are.
All of the things that we're doing, nobody's ever seen anything like it. And, Elon's upset because we took the EV mandate and, which was a lot of money for electric vehicles. And, they're having a hard time with electric vehicles and they want us to pay billions of dollars in subsidy. And, Elon knew this from the beginning. He knew it for a long time ago. That's been in there. That's been, I would say, JD, that hasn't changed. That's been right from the beginning, Mr. Secretary. That hasn't changed at all, right from the beginning. But I know that it disturbed him. All of the things that we're doing.
All right. So that was what Elon was replying to in his slim and beautiful post. Actually, let's just bring that back for 1 second here. Slim and beautiful. Cue this back up. So what he's talking about here, he is saying that this is unfair to him and his company because he's not getting any favors in this bill. And of course, those have to be left out because otherwise we get headlines about how Trump is doing all of this for Elon and they need to be able to sell this whole thing. Okay. So Elon's getting screwed in here and Elon is talking about the subsidies and all of this other disgusting pork, making himself seem like he just wanted the break too. Is he going to come out and burn himself down that way? There's no future in this argument, right? It sounds good for a minute. because there are people who think that they're smarter than Trump. They're going to virtue signal about how they're fiscal conservatives. They want to get on board with all that stuff. But is he being serious here? He can't be. Let's keep going. Thomas Massey, this afternoon, this was, just this afternoon. This House, gosh, man, I am retarded. I just read the same two words wrong twice. The House has a 72-hour rule which requires the bill to be posted 72 hours before passage. But the Speaker circumvented this rule with a manager's amendment that rewrote and added substantial portions of the bill as it went through the Rules Committee the night the bill was passed. There's another House rule which requires a day to pass before voting on a bill after the Rules Committee has modified it. Would you believe the House voted to suspend that so-called same-day rule? This means the final language of the bill was released only a few minutes before debate began. The vote on the rule change and the vote on the bill followed within a couple of hours. Elon is right. Members of Congress didn't even know what was in this bill until the night it passed. A few other members have also made this clear. And so Elon says, not even those in Congress who had to vote on the big, ugly spending bill had time to read it. Well, if that's the case, and by the way, we saw that was the case with Marjorie Taylor Greene making herself an issue the other day. She said, hey, I didn't read this part about the AI thing. That was wrong. I'll do better. So that she can also say, well, no one else read it. Now Elon's saying no one else read it. Thomas Massey's saying they didn't even follow the congressional rules to pass the thing. Well, he didn't follow the congressional rules for anything, and he also didn't get elected. So you can wipe all that away. Understand that now we have it understood by the public that the congressmen are not reading the legislation they're voting upon. Okay? That is a total violation of their fiduciary duty. That is a total violation of their oath. To the extent that they ever were legitimate, and they weren't, this would delegitimize them. Congressmen should not vote for spending bills they haven't read. They shouldn't vote for anything they haven't read. If you want to say the people at home, their constituents, want the big, beautiful bill passed, and so they voted the way their constituents wanted them to, well, that's a good argument. Nobody's making that argument. I would be interested in making that argument, or hearing them make the argument, I should say. Any of the congressmen who voted for the big, beautiful bill, they could say, my constituents at home are fully on board with the Trump agenda. And if this is what the president says he wants, this is what my constituents are backing. That's what I'm voting for. That would actually be doing that job the correct way. But of course, that would be pointless because on Twitter, the entire point is to virtue signal about your principles. Let's keep going. Congressmen do not read our bill. What a thing for us to learn throughout this process. For everyone to know completely. Trump said on July 31st, 2012, this one is also out of order. This is from Elon's reply is from this morning. No member of Congress should be eligible for re-election if our country's budget is not balanced, deficits not allowed. Elon says, I couldn't agree more. And so, again, the same sort of people are like, Trump's a hypocrite. He used to think this, and now he's arguing for it. He's a hypocrite. Let's show everybody how stupid Trump is. Well, okay. But you're also having people agree with the idea that no member of Congress should be eligible for re-election if our country's budget is not balanced because deficits are not allowed. Well, what would that mean? Are the congressmen going to be able to balance a budget? No. No, there's not going to be a balanced budget that the Congress is going to hold to and then pass. We don't need to be ridiculous. So that means immediately none of these congressmen should be reelected. And of course they shouldn't. keep going. Mm-mm. Now Elon Musk starts going hard. But not the big bomb, not yet. So Elon says this afternoon, the big ugly bill will increase the deficit to $2.5 trillion. And here he is yesterday on Fox Business talking about how the big ugly bill is going to destroy everything.
I think that we've got this enormous federal budget deficit, and it's a $2 trillion deficit. It keeps growing. Our interest payments are higher than our Defense Department budget. That's I think was the real wake-up call for me, was looking at seeing that the interest payments on national debt exceeded the Defense Department budget. And that was only growing over time, which meant if we didn't do something about this, then there won't be any money for anything. We'll just be servicing debt.
And you know how to read an income statement, and you know how to read a balance sheet. You've had some business experience. I'm kidding, but yeah, you know about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, really, I just don't want America to go bankrupt.
So it's a call to action. You're hearing a call to action.
Yeah.
You giving up your other stuff? I mean, how are you running your other businesses?
With great difficulty. Yeah, I mean.
But there's no turning back, you're saying?
I'm just here trying to make government more efficient, eliminate waste and fraud, and so far we're making good progress.
Just here to make government more efficient and eliminate waste and fraud. How about we make government much smaller and stop worrying about efficiency in a government that shouldn't exist in its current form? How about that? So Elon's going out there, and as you might have seen down in the corner of the screen, Fox Business was having Stephen Miller on next. And Stephen Miller would, of course, come on and talk about how good the big, beautiful bill is. Donald Trump this morning truthed out, shockingly, the Democrat-controlled CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, just announced that the tariffs will be reducing the deficit by at least $2.8 trillion. Too bad this information couldn't have been released earlier. It would have kept people from knowingly saying untruths. So he's accusing probably Elon Musk, but certainly others, of knowingly saying untruths. They knew the things they were saying were not true, and then they said these things anyway. They were knowingly saying untruths. Well, that's the sort of thing you would do if you were just faking it. So worth thinking about right there. But if the CBO calculates in the tariffs and they say, well, this is going to save $2.8 trillion, then everybody who's been arguing that Trump's going to blow out the deficit is wrong immediately, right? And if the facts don't back up that position ultimately, and the consensus agrees that those are not the facts, then everyone who pitched that case seems immediately anti-Trump. All right. So he's saving all this money. Then we have, the Thomas Massie and Rand Paul thing that it's going to explode the deficit. And they're factoring in the expiration of the tax cuts and saying if we're going to re-up these tax cuts, well, then that has to count as spending. It's the government spending money to give you a tax cut relative to what they had planned. Well, that's not how tax cuts work. And Trump has said many times the tax cuts are never supposed to expire. Those are supposed to be permanent tax cuts. So you can't take the amount of the tax cut and suggest that that is all deficit spending. That is a very sensible argument. You can agree with it or not. You can take the point of view that is something that we should consider to be deficit spending, but then you just be a groveling statist at that point. I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, the taxes shouldn't be there. If there's then not money for the programs in the budget, well, then you cut those programs. That's how that should work. It's not complicated. Let us continue. Here is, you know what? Actually, maybe this will be worth it. I hesitate to do this because it's quite a long clip, and I don't think I can even speed it up. But let's get to some of this here. This is Trump in the Oval Office today. He got a visit from Friedrich Merz, the new German chancellor, who was the guy who announced last week that Ukraine could attack targets inside Russia. And then all of a sudden they did it.
Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And, Elon's upset because we took the EV mandate and, which was a lot of money for electric vehicles. And, they're having a hard time, the electric vehicles. And they want us to pay billions of dollars in subsidy. And, Elon knew this from the beginning. He knew it for a long time ago. That's been in there. That's been, I would say, JD, that hasn't changed. That's been right from the beginning, Mr. Secretary. That hasn't changed at all, right from the beginning. But I know that disturbed him. He wanted, and rightfully, he recommended somebody from that he, I guess, knew very well. I'm sure he respected him, but to run NASA. And I didn't think it was appropriate. And he happened to be a Democrat, like totally Democrat. And I say, look, we won. We get certain privileges. And one of the privileges, we don't have to appoint a Democrat. NASA is very important. We have great people. General Kane is going to be picking somebody with our, we'll be checking him out and seeing. But he wanted that person, a certain person, and we said no. And, I can understand why he's upset. Remember, he was here for a long time. You saw a man who was very happy when he stood behind the Oval desk. And even with the black eye, I said, do you want a little makeup? We'll get you a little makeup. But he said, no, I don't think so, which is interesting and very nice. He wants to be who he is. So you could make that statement, too, I guess. Look, Elon and I had a great relationship. I don't know if we're well anymore. I was surprised because you were here. Everybody in this room practically was here as we had a wonderful send-off. He said wonderful things about me. You couldn't have nicer. Said the best things. He's worn the hat. Trump was right about everything. And I am right about the great, big, beautiful bill. We call it a great, big, beautiful bill because that's what it is. And again, biggest tax cuts in history, biggest economic development moves anywhere. We've never done anything like it. Business is spurred. And I don't know if you've seen the numbers, but the numbers came out. Even the CBO, which is run by Democrats, said that we're going to be doing, I'd like you to discuss it, the $2.8 trillion, that CBO. This is a group of people that are Democrats. They're very hostile to us. They just came out with phenomenal numbers, what it does. Do you want to mention that, Scott?
Yes, sir. So what we've seen is we keep hearing from the CBO that there's going to be a large deficit from the bill, which we disagree with, but using the CBO scoring, they came out and scored the tariff revenue. We think it'll be the minimum of $2.8 trillion over the 10-year window, which actually puts the bill in surplus if you include the tariff revenue, which they won't do.
It gives you a tremendous surplus, but we're not allowed to use that. For some reason, they say scoring. Nobody knows what scoring means. Maybe a couple of people, but nobody. Somebody sits in the background. They say, well, we're not going to allow that. They're not allowing other things that we have that are tremendously profitable for our country. But if you saw the other day, CNBC, they came out with numbers, and the people on the show, very good people, I've watched them for a long time, they couldn't believe the numbers, how good they are. The numbers were incredible, and that was personal income and also very low inflation. We have very low inflation. We're down to 2% now, and maybe even lower than that. And when I took it over, it was a mess. Remember, we had the worst inflation probably in the history of our country. They say 48 years, but let's say I think it's worse than that. So we had the worst inflation in the history of our country under the Biden administration. Now we're down to a beautiful number, 2%. You'd actually like to keep it there. Better than zero is 2%. It's going down maybe to 1, and 1% is like perfect. That's perfect. You don't want to have zero for certain reasons that nobody is very interested to listen to. But we have almost perfect inflation. Grocery prices are down. Everything. Remember eggs? Eggs. We weren't going to buy another egg for the next 20 years. They were so expensive, right? Remember? You guys all hit me about eggs. Eggs have come down 400%. Everybody has eggs now. They're having eggs for breakfast again. But if you look at gasoline, very important. I think always the most important because it's the energy is the biggest factor. That's what happened. He screwed up our energy policy.
It came down 400%. They're paying people to take their eggs. That's amazing.
And everything went up because energy went up. But now energy is way down, and they have states where you're at $1.98 a gallon for gasoline. So the costs have come way down. And one of the things I ran on was that. I ran on the border. We have the best border in the history of our country, 99.99%. It was last week, 3 people came in, 2 of them for medical reasons. We let them in because one of them had a heart attack. I think it was a nice thing to do, and one of them had something else. So we've never had, I had very good numbers for 4 years, but we really topped it. And I want to thank Christie and Tom Homan. They've done a fantastic job. But nobody mentions that anymore. Remember, a few months ago, the border was a total disaster. People were coming in by the hundreds of thousands of people a day, a week, a month. I mean, we had a month, 2 million people came in 1 month. The border was being overrun, and a lot of bad people, criminals, murderers, drug dealers. We had some of the worst people in the world coming in from all over the world. It's totally closed. And you know what? People are coming into our country, but they're coming in legally. So
now, I should have mentioned this when we were talking about the Stephen Miller post. This is a really important point because one of the selling points of the big, beautiful bill is that it's going to fund what we need at the border and potentially for the deportations or whatever. But Trump's already saying that the border's closed. He said months ago that the invasion is over, multiple times. All right. So either we need money to close the border and keep it closed, or the invasion is over. I guess you could say that they need the money to keep the status quo and employ all those people at the border. I really don't think that's the case. Okay, I think that they're going to, he's got the military regardless. The borders are going to be just fine. But as a selling point for why we definitely need to pass the big, beautiful bill, why would you also be then telling us that the problem has already been solved? Anyhow, let's continue with the rest of this clip.
We've done a great job. Elon knew that. Elon endorsed me very strongly. He actually went up in campaign for me. I think I would have won. Susie would say I would have won Pennsylvania easily anyway, even if the governor ran, the real governor, not the governor from Minnesota, he's a sick puppy, that guy. That poor guy, I feel sorry for him. But they made a bad choice with him. But if you pick Shapiro or anybody else, I spoke to him recently about his house being set on fire, which was terrible. But if they picked him, I would have won Pennsylvania. I won it by a lot. But I'm very disappointed because Elon knew the inner workings of this bill better than almost anybody sitting here, better than you people. He knew everything about it. He had no problem with it. All of a sudden he had a problem. And he only developed the problem when he found out that we're going to have to cut the EV mandate because that's billions and billions of dollars. And it really is unfair. We want to have cars of all types. Electric, we want to have electric, but we want to have a gasoline, combustion. We want to have different. We want to have hybrids. We want to have we want to be able to sell everything. And when that was cut, and Congress wanted to cut it, he became a little bit different. And I can understand that. But he knew every aspect of this bill. He knew it better than almost anybody. And he never had a problem until right after he left. And if you saw the statements he made about me, which I'm sure you can get very easily, it's very fresh on tape, he said the most beautiful things about me. And he hasn't said bad about me personally, but I'm sure that'll be next. But I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
Man, how did he know that things were going to get personal next? Gosh, he just is so good at predicting. This is Elon reacting to that statement. He says, false, this bill was never shown to me, even once, and was passed in the dead of night so fast that almost no one in Congress could even read it. Interesting. Well, who were the people who did read it? If it's almost no one, that means some people could read it. I guess the people who wrote the bill, Mike Johnson, I don't know what he's implying there. But it's very sad that he didn't get to see the bill even once, even though Donald Trump is saying that he certainly did see the bill. Hold on just a second. Yeah. Okay. I thought I had a duplicate link in there, and it turns out that I did. So thank goodness we don't need to do that. Learn the hard way. This is just for fun. Nick Land weighed in on this today. He said, ultimately more of a Musk guy than a Trump guy, despite thinking Trump is a manifest divine providence president. But Trump is simply walking this. You need help, Elon. You're not getting the level. And I think that Nick Land is very well aware of where the power center is. And he says that he's probably more aligned with Elon Musk in his thinking. That's kind of just more who he is. Very tech forward, optimistic, futuristic, and future oriented. But at the end of the day, he also believes that Trump is a manifest divine providence president. That is a very bold claim and a very high compliment. And I'm glad to see that from Nick Land, even thinking in those terms, because I really think that Nick Land is going in the right direction about all of this stuff. This is Stephen Miller today calling into the Charlie Kirk show. So Stephen Miller gets to, I think that they did almost a half an hour in this interview, but he gets to really lay out the case that the big, beautiful bill is the way to go. Here we are.
If conservatives want to be able to govern this country, they have to stop being afraid of winning. History is set by winners. President Trump is a winner. President Trump survived 2 assassination attempts. President Trump was shot in the head. President Trump survived an effort in multiple jurisdictions to incarcerate him for life. President Trump is a winner. The conservative movement needs to be able to take yes for an answer, to accept winning. And then you make a huge, historic, successful victory, and then you go on to the next victory and the next victory and the next victory. Deep, deep, deep down inside, somewhere in the traumatized conservative psyche, amongst some, not all, amongst some, but enough, is an allergy to winning, a great fear of winning. There's a desire deep inside that would rather sit on a panel complaining about a bill than celebrating a victory. And that instinct is everything that MAGA is allergic to. The MAGA movement, among many other things, is about understanding that to save this country, you have to be able to govern this country. And all of these procedural hurdles that are being thrown in the way, all of these highly technical bureaucratic complaints, which whether they're all fictional, all false, fake scores of tax cuts and everything else, are all born not from policy disagreement, but from a fear of winning. And that is what we must overcome more than anything else, or we will lose the country.
All right. Stephen Miller bringing it hard, as he does. Donald Trump then began weighing in once he learned of how upset Elon was being online. And he said this afternoon on Truth Social, Elon was, quote unquote, wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do. And he just went crazy. That's amazing. So Elon Musk has known this entire time that there would be no EV mandate. And of course, Donald Trump campaigned on that for like 2 years. So of course he knew that, and we all knew it, and basically everybody knew it. So Elon Musk knew that the whole time, and then it happened, and then his reaction was that he went crazy? Now that is just bananas. And, it reminds me of this Chris Rock joke. And I got to go to it. And it's funny because this is going to make my YouTube broadcast of this get blocked, which will be very annoying. But that's how it goes sometimes. Anyway, this is Chris Rock from a special like 20 years ago. This is one of my favorite jokes of all time.
Man, Siegfried and Roy, the tiger bit the man in the head, and everybody's mad at the tiger. Talk about the tiger went crazy. That tiger ain't go crazy. That tiger went tiger. You know when the tiger went crazy? When the tiger was riding around on a little bike with a Hitler helmet on. Oh shit, I'm a crazy tiger. Whoa, Lord, I'm crazy.
So Elon, he knew that the EV mandate was not going to be in there, and then it happened, and then he went crazy. That Elon didn't go crazy. That Elon went Elon. I love that joke. That tiger didn't go crazy. That tiger went tiger. Oh, it's the best. Hey, if you don't think it's funny, all good. I am happy to laugh at these things on my own. Let's go to Trump's second breakup post on Truth Social. He says the easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's governmental subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. Ha! Biden. Imagine Biden did it. How is it that Biden didn't do it? Even though his administration was run by the Autopan. Why didn't Biden cancel Elon Musk's military contracts? Isn't that weird? Trump's surprised he didn't do it. Of course, he didn't do anything. So why didn't his administration do it? Because Elon was obviously their new enemy, but nobody did it. Elon even they had the Starlink situation in Russia and Ukraine. They wanted Elon to shut it down, and an attack happened. Elon didn't go along with the Biden administration's goals for Starlink in their special war, and his Defense Department contracts were not adjusted at all. Biden never came out, made statements, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that to Elon. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. By the way, one of the funniest reactions to all of this today, gosh, man, I just lost my train of thought by checking the chat really quick. I should stop doing that. The Defense Department contracts. Oh, no. Well, we'll just come back to it. So throughout the afternoon, here is another aspect to layer in. This is the National Pulse. The headline, Tesla shares fall as Elon melts down over Trump and the big, beautiful bill. So Tesla's stock has been getting crushed all afternoon, all day. And DJT has been dropping as well. So it's affecting them both. Rumble's down a little bit. Bitcoin's down. What's going on with the markets? This provides a great story about what's going on in the markets, but the markets are manipulated. Are people really selling out big time of Tesla today because Elon's making comments about Trump and the big, beautiful bill? Everybody's like, oh no, if Elon and Trump break up, well, then Tesla's not going to be worth anything. And Trump puts out this post and says, well, I could take your contracts. Well, can he? Because that would mean then that the president can override what the Congress has set out to spend. Why could he do it there with the Defense Department, but not in all the other places? Well, that's really weird, huh? Just saying. Here is Elon Musk noting again that Donald Trump is some kind of hypocrite, because Trump said on December 4th, he gave this nomination to Jared Isaacman for Chief Spaceman at NASA. And Trump said, I am delighted to nominate Jared Isaacman. An accomplished business leader, philanthropist, pilot, and astronaut. As administrator of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, Jared will drive NASA's mission of discovery and inspiration, paving the way for groundbreaking achievements in space science, technology, and exploration. Well, okay. Talked about how great a guy he was. These companies, his financial tech company, his space experience, and all of that. We know that Trump always gives glowing endorsements whenever he nominates someone. There was one time where he said, "This nomination is not really for me. This is for someone else, but we're hoping for the best." I think that was Morgan Ortegas or something like that. But Isaacman's NASA appointment got pulled. NASA? Really? Elon apparently wants to lead NASA or something. He wanted his guy, Jared Isaacman, the man who went up into space and did that retarded little spacewalk. Oh, look, I'm poking half of my body out of the spacecraft into this great void in outer space. Give me a break. So that guy was supposed to be Chief Spaceman at NASA, and now Elon Musk is upset that Jared Isaacman won't be Chief Spaceman at NASA. Here is Elon Musk getting upset later in the afternoon. After Trump threatened his budgets, he says, "In light of the president's statement about cancellation of my government contracts, SpaceX will begin decommissioning its Dragon spacecraft immediately." Immediately. Trump has said we might lose money, therefore we're just going to stop building this spacecraft. Consequences be damned. If it's bad for the country, well, hey, it's Donald Trump's fault. He should have never Truth Social this thing, even though I'm tweeting these things. They're basically just throwing plates at each other in the kitchen as they scream at one another at this point. That's the stage of the celebrity breakup we're in. Pretty soon, when one of them tries to get back with the other, they're like, "I swear, I don't know if I can keep on living unless we get back together. I don't know what could make life meaningful anymore. I'm not going to be allowed to go to space. Now we're never going to get to Mars. Trump, it's all your fault. How could you do this to me?" Oh, man. We're never going to get to go to Mars, and our planet is going to be destroyed. And in 30 or 40 billion years, we're going to really have some problems. So retarded. I can't believe people believe in this shit still, but people do. And apparently there are quote unquote smart people as well. I don't know, man. Space, outer space, the final frontier. Let's just fly 400 billion miles through this black infinite void where we can finally reach our true home. I mean, what in the world are we thinking? Space is a vacuum. So what we're going to do is send this craft 400 million miles into it and then get it to fire its jets off that faraway planet and return home. It's physics. It's math. Don't you get it? All of this is possible because of physics and math. And if you say it's not possible, that's because you don't want to inspire our children. We need inspiration. We need to climb to great heights in the future. That's what space is about. And I know people who make that argument. I think Constantine might have made it yesterday. I don't agree with that argument, okay? There's got to be other ways to inspire our children. How about providing them good examples of how to go through life? But we have to keep expanding and expanding and expanding. We need to go out into space. It's our final frontier. We have to reach it. Otherwise, we'll never achieve our full potential. If you need to get to space to achieve our full potential, you're really confused about the point of this whole thing. And I would suggest that you don't believe there is a point of this whole thing. I would suggest that the only people who could believe something so ridiculous are just scientific materialists. Let us go to this Breitbart post. We got a little bit of a flashback. Trump rips Elon Musk, another bullshit artist. This is from July 11th, 2022.
Another one of our highest priorities under...
Whoop, sorry.
Not a good contract.
Everything's going wrong now. Let's go back to the beginning. Let me fix the volume so it's not screaming or muted. We're almost there. Everything is going to be okay, and here we go.
Another one of our highest priorities under a Republican Congress will be to stop left-wing censorship and to restore free speech in America. And go out, by the way, while I'm here and sign up now for Truth Social. It's hot as a pistol, and you see that. I pulled that one right. Leon's, I tell you what, Elon is not going to buy Twitter. Where did you hear that before? From me. From a fake account. She says fake.
Did he buy it? Trump said he's not going to buy it. And then we were told Elon bought it, but...
Nah, he's got himself a mess. You know, he said the other day, I've never voted for a Republican. I said, I didn't know that. He told me he voted for me. So he's another bullshit artist, but he's not going to be buying it. He's not going to be buying it. Although he might later. Who the hell knows what's going to happen? He's got a pretty rotten contract. I looked at his contract. Not a good contract.
So his contract to buy Twitter was a bad contract. Trump said he wasn't going to buy it. And then he said, well, I don't know. Maybe it'll happen later. Oh, gosh. And behind all this, by the way, we still do have the TikTok thing. And now the rumor is that it's going to get extended for another 90 days. We'll just keep pushing that out forever. And that seems to be a trigger point for something in the future when that does finally get settled. And we'll see. Maybe they won't extend it. I think the deadline right now is like July 19th. Or is it June 19th? A couple weeks from now. That sounds right. Because I think it was right around when the military parade was supposed to be scheduled. But someone can correct me on the chat. I'm not going to hold to find that. Here is another Trump flashback. Or I should say an Elon flashback. This was in response to that Breitbart post on July 11th, 2022. Elon says, I don't hate the man, but it's time for Trump to hang up his hat and sail into the sunset. Dems should also call off the attack. Don't make it so that Trump's only way to survive is to regain the presidency. So Elon Musk back then didn't want to help Donald Trump regain the presidency. He said he's just short of hating Trump. I don't hate him. You might think that I hate him. You might think it would make sense that I would hate him, but I don't hate him. But it's time for Trump to hang up his hat and sail into the sunset. And then 3 years later, almost 3 years later, 1 week ago, 6 weeks short of 3 years, Elon is in the Oval Office receiving that golden key from Donald Trump. He has said nothing but glowing things about Donald Trump for the last year. Is it possible he was lying for that entire time and was upset about the big, beautiful bill? Everything that they had done together, all of it for naught. Because the big, beautiful bill is just going to hurt the deficit and the debt too much. And it doesn't give Elon Musk the electronic vehicles mandate that he knew he was never going to get and that Trump campaigned on while Elon supported him. That does not make sense. And then things went nuclear. Things went nuclear. Elon Musk, time to drop the really big bomb. like the Manhattan Project size. Real Donald Trump is in the Epstein Files. That is the reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT. What? What do you mean? Trump's in the Epstein Files, huh? Okay. There was the plane thing that we've heard about. Trump was certainly named in lawsuits or in testimony, I guess you would say. Virginia Giuffre's testimony, if memory serves. But it was always to say that Trump actually never did anything. Yes, he was at Mar-a-Lago while Jeffrey Epstein brought people there, but then Trump banned Jeffrey Epstein from Mar-a-Lago. And if Epstein flew on Trump's jet, I think it was at some point, or maybe Trump flew on Epstein's, but they weren't both on it at the same time. Trump never traveled to the island. Trump has no exposure on Epstein. No exposure on Epstein. And if he had exposure on Epstein, why did Elon Musk keep allowing his little tiny kid X to hang out with him? And why did he work with him? The people are just going to accept, well, it's okay that you worked with this man who you knew was an Epstein pedophile because you wanted to make the government more efficient. Rather than calling him out, you wanted to make the government more efficient so badly that you not only worked with a man who you're now saying is a pedophile, you let him watch your child. Well, that does not make sense. And, of course, the Epstein Files, I thought, were already made public. What do you mean the Epstein Files weren't made public? Here's the Epstein Files being made public. Don't you remember this day at the White House when DC Drano and libs of TikTok and this batshit Blaze lady down here who had on the new suicide bombers on planes hoax lady the other day? And then there's Mike Cernovich in back. And they had so many influencers at the White House to get the Epstein Files. Well, where did this new information about Trump being in the Epstein Files come from? Was it in those binders? How come we never found out about it? How come for 10 years Trump's been in the Epstein Files that were possessed by the deep state, and the deep state never used that? Instead, they used the PP hoax and the Russian collusion hoax and multiple impeachments and the pandemic and the summer of love and the stolen election and censorship and propaganda. How come they didn't just tell the nation that Donald Trump is one of the Epstein pedophiles? Seems like that would have taken care of this whole thing, but it didn't. And now Elon's saying it. What does it mean then that Elon Musk is saying that Trump is in the Epstein Files? This is the big bomb. Everything before now that we were throwing back and forth at each other, it was totally preposterous. It did serve purposes. It got people to discuss issues about fiscal responsibility, and the discussions are good. The virtue signaling sucks. The anti-Trump virtue signaling, because now you have a fiscally conservative way to do it and keep your street cred, that sucks. But the conversation's good. Elon Musk was saying all sorts of implausible things that could not be possibly true. He did not help Trump win a fake election. Okay? So saying that and taking credit for that is absurd. All the stuff back and forth is absurd. It's been absurd all day long. The big bomb is also absurd. And look how it's being covered in the media. Here is the Daily Mail just for the headline here. Elon Musk drops Epstein bomb in worst slur yet against Trump as their public breakup turns ugly. Look, 3 degrees to the right. Gwyneth Paltrow debuts IDGAF figure on yacht vacation with surprising 90s legends. As insiders say, she's ditched perfection. Oh, yeah. Jessica Simpson looking miserable. Just celebrity bullshit all the way down. But this celebrity breakup is real. It's real, everybody. It's real. Other stuff is fake, but this story is real. You know how you know it's real? Because all the smartest people on Twitter say it. And that's all the standard we need. Always. Just like it used to be with the television. If it's on television, it's got to be true. Otherwise, they wouldn't be allowed to say it, right? There are laws about these kinds of things. And if something happened, if one of those conspiracy theorists out there, one of those conspiracy theories out there was true, well, the television would have told us. And we got the same thing with Twitter now, because that's the mainstream media now. So what they tell us really happened, because all these people wouldn't agree that it happened, or wouldn't be telling us that it did happen and agree about it happening unless it actually happened. So therefore it happened, because all the smart, important people in tech, in finance, in science, all these really great writers, these political experts, they're all saying it happened. They agree that it happened. Now, none of them has independently proven in any way that any of it did happen, but they're all sure that it happened together. Therefore, it happened. All the smartest people on Twitter agree about it. And likewise, if, for instance, let's just say that Donald Trump didn't actually lose the 2020 election and didn't actually step away, and that there was something going on for those entire 4 years while Joe Biden was pretending to be president in ways that we are seeing daily now and enhancing daily now. If that all was happening, well, then the smartest people on Twitter would have known it. And instead, they called it a conspiracy theory. And that's what makes other people not believe it. Just like the mainstream media. They're waiting for the television. Normies are waiting for the television to tell them things they already know. When the television says that the election was actually stolen, then they'll believe it. Then they'll believe that there are election problems. But for now, that's a conspiracy theory. Biden definitely won, and he was certified, and he was president the whole time. We all watched it with our own eyes. Until the TV says it, until Twitter says it, it's not true. It's just a conspiracy theory. For those of us who are insane over here, talking nonsense all the time. Oh, I know, it's so divisive what they're saying. They're just talking about another planet. Those guys are crazy. Yeah. Crazy. Or maybe we just don't believe the television and Twitter. The television is all of our screens, okay? The central narrative is pumped in through our little screens in our pocket and our little screens on our desk, just as they were pumped in through the screen on the wall. The central narrative is the central narrative is the central narrative. Doesn't matter how it's delivered. And the central narrative incorporating a new idea is not what makes it true. Okay? It doesn't become true once it's admitted by these people. Now let's go to an escalation even from going nuclear. Nukes. Spacemen. It's also dumb. So Elon talks about the really big bomb and then follows it up. Mark this post for the future. The truth will come out. And yes, it will. And Trump is probably in there somewhere, but not doing anything wrong. And everyone already knows that, except for the normies on Twitter who guide the Twitter conversation. And so Ian Miles Chong, one of the most repulsive people in the public conversation, says, President versus Elon, who wins? My money's on Elon. Trump should be impeached and J.D. Vance should replace him. And Elon Musk says yes. Now, again, I think all of this is a farce, but considering that it might not be, we got to think about things like this. Elon Musk might want Donald Trump to be impeached and replaced with J.D. Vance. Well, is he putting forward a widely held viewpoint by amplifying this? Yes, of course he is. And it's probably a widely held viewpoint among Elon's peers in the tech community and all those people who jumped on board with the Trump campaign after the primaries were over. Oh, we can't have Kamala. Yes, we voted for Joe Biden 4 years ago, but we realized the error of our ways, and now we are firmly America first. I'm Bill Ackman. I'm Joe Lonsdale. We're America first, sort of, for a little while. And then we will be very happy when Elon Musk says, impeach Trump, stick J.D. Vance in there. That's what we always wanted in the first place, J.D. And so we get another level of the narrative and people's true identities being unwound. Just keep going up and up and up in scale throughout the conic media and social media, through the tech media and social media. All of these people who declare themselves to be Trump aligned, but aren't really Trump aligned, and have gone against Trump over and over and over again over the last 10 years. They were against Trump in the Republican primaries the first time around, and then they got on board just to win the election. And then they spent 4 years virtue signaling about their conservatism, telling everyone that Donald Trump was doing the wrong thing repeatedly. And then they got on board very mildly in 2020 because they sided with the experts and knew Trump was anti-science and he was messing up COVID, and they could get rid of Trump with the COVID thing and still seem Republican enough. Maybe we just let Biden win, and in 4 years, then we can take back control under someone other than Trump. And they did that. That's exactly what they did. They didn't stand up against our stolen elections. They didn't declare the elections fake and declare the Biden presidency a usurpation. If the entire country had adopted those ideas and understood that, then they would want Trump to be in control and to do whatever necessary to wipe out the deep state. But the public still doesn't know that yet because the television hasn't told them, because the Twitter personalities haven't told them, because conic media and social media and tech media and social media, most particularly, and finance, I guess you could add in there as well, haven't told them. All of the wannabe elites in the world, the people still in the party of false decorum, and you don't have to be a wannabe elite to be in the party of false decorum. You just have to care more about your reputation than telling the truth, than the country, etc. Okay? If you're a scientific materialist, chances are you're also in the party of false decorum. Right? But those people want to get rid of Trump and move on so that they never have to align their reputations with Trump outside of a necessary vote in an election. Okay? They don't care about stolen elections. They didn't care about the stolen election in 2020. They didn't care about it in 2021, 2022, 2023, or 2024. And all those elections were fake. All right? They don't care. By the way, worth reminding everybody, it's not just me saying that. It's Trump saying that as well.
Sports has always been something that Americans rally around to come together. They really do. You won the popular vote. You won all the swing states. But still, Kamala Harris got 75 million votes in the country.
Well, if you believe the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just say
it is ridiculous.
That the election was as it was.
Excuse me. There are 7 swing states. I won them all.
You did
by a lot.
But let me just get to the dismount here.
And I won the popular
Have
vote.
you thought about how to try to bring the country together?
He's the one saying it. Where are all the quote-unquote conservatives out there on Twitter with their big accounts, their large platforms? And that's what makes them so important to us. I mean, they're aligned with us sometimes, and they've got the large platforms. Therefore, we have to be nice to them all the time, no matter how many stupid things they say, no matter how many times they say that they hate Trump and MAGA. Still got to be nice to them because they have the big platforms. That, my friends, is responding to incentives and punishments within the party of false decorum. That is groveling for people you know to be liars because you think they're our best hope. That's groveling. So we now have a group of people on Twitter, Con Inc., tech people, finance bros, all kinds of bros on Twitter, taking Team Elon against Donald Trump. They're going anti-Trump in the middle of 2025 and think that it's going to play well because it's Elon that they're siding with. And now Elon is going anti-Trump. But here's the thing. Elon can simply say, I'm not anti-Trump anymore. We had a little bit of a disagreement and everything's totally okay again. And that's probably going to happen. I don't know that it's going to happen, but I think it's probably going to happen. And that would be an indicator of whether or not this is kayfabe. And on the, I believe, small possibility that it's not and that this is real and sincere, that's what necessitates us examining it in both ways. Okay? And so we won't lose track of that. But think about how many people have now come out and shown themselves to be anti-Trump, even if it's just relative to Elon Musk and J.D. Vance. That's not better, okay? If Elon Musk and J.D. Vance are higher up than Trump in your hierarchy of who should be leading, you have no idea what's going on, all right? These people are still asleep. And part of that is because they have participated in a retarded conversation at the intellectual kids table on X, formerly Twitter, for all of these years. They never got banned. Even people who got banned and who have gone back are getting dumber because of that platform. Okay? You can watch it happen. It's not hard to see. Why are all the most prominent people losing their minds today? Why is that? There's got to be an answer. And because they're that and have always been that thing, why is it that so many supposedly MAGA people are constantly groveling and defending these people? What's the middle ground? We don't need a middle ground. They lie to our faces every day. And we just say, well, we need them because they have big platforms. Or this is part of some special secret operation. And we just got to be nice to them. We know they're on the team. We know it, even though they never actually do anything to help. And of course, they all have, like Charlie Kirk, like Scott Presler, these kinds of people. Well, we wouldn't have won the election without them. Hey, pal, elections are fake. Scott Presler generated the raw material for stolen elections, and he got paid $5 million by Charlie Kirk to do it. And Charlie Kirk's organization gets like $100 million a year. Who's paying that money? Is Elon? Hard to say. Isn't it weird that we've actually reached the point where there is talk online of Trump being impeached and replaced with J.D. Vance. And there's nothing these people would love more because J.D. Vance speaks podcast bro. And all they think is the podcast bro language all the time. What's Joe Rogan saying? What's Dave Rubin saying? What's Konstantin Kisin saying? What's David Sachs saying? What is Chalmoth Polyoptia saying? I think that's how you say his name. I'm not trying to mess it up. What's Naval Ravikant saying? Let's figure out what the smartest people on Twitter are saying and the smartest podcasters are saying, and we're just going to adopt all of those views. That's going to make us super edgy and super interesting at the parties our liberal friends throw. Because we want to be edgy and interesting, but we don't want to be uninvited. And that's why we're Team Elon, Team JD, never really Team Trump. And when they shove Trump away, they'll say, well, I never really supported Trump. I just, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, of course, I had to support Trump in that situation because the election was just too important. So I supported Trump for a little while, but I never really supported him. You know what I mean, guys? Come on, guys. We're all still cool here, right? I watched that social dynamic play out in my life thousands upon thousands upon thousands of times. And it's not just about Trump. It's about all different aspects of life, okay? People adopt beliefs or say they adopt beliefs because there are social incentives involved, or because they want to identify with certain things at certain times, and then they will shed those identities when that identity is no longer socially approved, and they'll adopt a new identity. This is my pal, The Storm Has Arrived, over on X, formerly Twitter. Just watch this clip of Elon saying how much he loves and respects President Trump. Just 3 months ago, you can tell it's genuine. He says, my opinion, no way this fight is real. Obviously, it could be, but seems more likely that they are setting a trap. And they very well could be setting a trap. I think that the trap has already worked, whether or not they intended to set it. Let's listen to Trump and Elon in an interview. I think this was Hannity a couple months back.
He's become one of your, if you read it, believe the media, he's become one of your best friends. He's working for free for you.
Well, I love the president. I just want to be clear about that.
I don't care about that.
I know. I love the president.
You love the president.
I think President Trump is a good man, and he's, you know.
That's nice the way he said that. You know, there's something nice about it.
It really is. You know, because I mean, the president's been so unfairly attacked in the media. It's really outrageous. And I've at this point spent a lot of time with the president, and not once have I seen him do something that was mean or cruel or wrong. Not once.
He's going to go into orbit soon.
Okay. Yeah.
No, he's going to go to Mars. He's
Starlink
at some point.
Huh?
Yeah. But they always ask me, like, do you want to die on Mars? And I say, well, yes, but not on impact.
Starlink is in 100 countries.
All right. Well, we can move on from that. But they look pretty genuinely pleased with one another, like they have a good relationship. I know somebody dropped this in my chat today, and I know that there are rumors that they're somehow related back in their family lines. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that would be relevant even if it was true, but I get that that makes sense and fair enough. If we find out in the future that that's a factor, well, then it's a factor I should have taken into account and didn't. But that's the sort of thing that I'm not particularly interested in. So they were good friends, seemingly, a couple of months ago. Elon saying a bunch of great things about him. I guess he must have somehow seen the Epstein Files between then and now, and that's how he knows that Trump is an Epstein-associated pedophile. Really? Does that make sense? No, it doesn't make sense. That does not make sense. I really should download that, but the last time I did it, I had to remove it on YouTube from my stream. And that's one of the most annoying things about YouTube. I mean, it's good that they don't ultimately take the content down unless someone has claimed it for copyright and then they redirect the money to them, as I was talking about. But the South Park thing is one of those things where you just got to take it down completely. And then all of a sudden there's just a hole in my podcast and everybody's like, oh, I wonder what was in there. We'll probably have one of those from the Chris Rock thing earlier. So I don't know, whatever. The context of the joke, people will hopefully get it. Donald Trump took a softer touch later on in the afternoon. He said, I don't mind Elon turning against me, but he should have done so months ago. This is one of the greatest bills ever presented to Congress. It's a record cut in expenses, $1.6 trillion, and the biggest tax cut ever given. If this bill doesn't pass, there will be a 68% tax increase and things far worse than that. I didn't create this mess. I'm just here to fix it. This puts our country on a path of greatness. Make America great again. Well, all right. So he doesn't even mind that Elon has turned against him. He just really wants to get this bill passed because it's that important. Now, in the real world, if it was that important to Donald Trump, considering taking Elon's side of this because you're a fiscal conservative would be absolutely moronic. Okay? It would be an indication that you actually don't know what's going on, that you're not actually on board with Trump, that you don't understand a bigger project in the works, and that you just care about this bill that the illegitimate Congress and illegitimate Senate are going to pass, and then Trump's going to sign it, and then that'll become a law that dictates our future. It's going to leave us in debt. It's going to blow out the deficit. Our country's going to go bankrupt. The whole thing's going to go belly up. unless we stop Donald Trump right now. All right, normies, good luck. Let's just pause for 1 second. I want to do a... yes. Now, I don't, as you'll know, I'm not generally a great fan of trying to piece everything together in Trump posts and other things and connect them to other things that are unrelated. But the biggest tax cut ever given is what he said in that post. And it does remind me of this from back in 2021. The Ever Given is one of the largest container ships in the world. On March 23rd, 2021, while traveling from Tanjung Pelepas in Malaysia to Rotterdam in the Netherlands, the ship ran aground in the Suez Canal, blocking the channel. And on the side of it said Evergreen. And you might remember that used to decode to a Q post, and then that Q post later became Trump talking about the magnolia tree that Andrew Jackson had planted at the White House. Amazing. Just changed like that. But anyhow, Trump saying Ever Given in that post is interesting because that's a uncommon turn of phrase in a sentence like that, in grammar like that. Here is part of the reaction that we have gotten from the enemy, as it were, and it's really up to you whether or not you consider this an enemy thing, but certainly the Democrat Party, to the extent they're not fully under control, is nothing but evil at this point. Anyhow, the Democrats at this afternoon, I should say, posted, "Kill the bill and release the Epstein Files." The Democrats are begging for the Epstein Files to be released. Are their supporters going to get on board with that? And if they do, which would be hilarious because they want to see Trump finally exposed. The indictments didn't work. The E. Jean Carroll thing, nobody really bought that. The Stormy Daniels thing. They know these things aren't true, by the way. They'll keep saying them because they think that Donald Trump is the worst person. But they know that the stories aren't really true. The people who say all that, they think they're going to get Donald Trump finally, once and for all, on the Epstein Files, but there's not going to be anything in there. And instead, there's going to be stuff in there on their people. And truth be told, if I was Elon, I would be more concerned about that because some of Elon's guys from the PayPal mafia are Epstein linked, like Reid Hoffman, for instance, and Elon Musk and Larry Page as well. And Elon Musk can say, I don't think Larry Page was PayPal mafia technically, but partners in tech, partners at OpenAI, etc. These are Epstein people that Elon was linked to. There's probably more exposure there than there is for Donald Trump. And I'm not saying that Elon has personal exposure, but probably people who he's been related to in important business ways did have exposure on that and relationships maintained with Elon past that point. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But the idea that there's something on Trump in there, I don't buy it. Democrats now want the Epstein Files released. Let's go to another Democrat post. This is from the, this interview, I think. This was from back during the campaign. Let's just hear this clip from Fox News.
Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah. I did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah. Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would.
Would you declassify?
So Trump wants to declassify the Epstein files, but he's worried that there's a lot of phony stuff in there. And the phony stuff is going to be read by the public as real stuff. And then a lot of people who didn't actually do anything are going to get screwed over the same and be treated the same way that people who actually did do things are treated. And that is, I think, a worthwhile concern. It's not a concern that is great enough to hold back the information, but the situation should be handled with some care. The Democrats, though, are now begging that these Epstein files get released, and they're attempting to suggest that Donald Trump was covering his ass in that interview, saying we can't release this stuff because, people's names are going to be dragged through the mud, and some of them didn't do it. Some of that stuff is phony, and that would be cover for himself. That is what they're implying. And again, I would suggest that that is absolutely crazy. Now, I don't know if in the last couple of hours that we've been talking about these things, whether or not Trump has not posted anything new about this, and someone can let me know if Elon has. I'm going to check the Elon alerts really quickly. And where are we at this afternoon? All right, there's the JD Vance post. Elon putting emojis around things. Oh, he did also say that the Trump tariffs will cause a recession in the second half of the year. So he's going against the tariffs, while Trump is saying that the tariffs are actually going to save us $2.8 trillion, even according to the Congressional Budget Office. Also on Twitter this afternoon, Call Trump was trending, and people were posting under Elon's posts telling him that he needs to just get on the phone with Trump. Stop trying to hash this out in public. Stop saying mean things about the president. Stop screwing up your space program. We need to get to Mars. Just work it out. Can't you guys work it out? So there's this push for Trump and Elon to work it out. In 24 hours or 48 hours or a week from now or a month from now, if we hear that they've worked it out, well, then this op is immediately canceled out. And any negativity that flowed back and forth, all that's canceled out. And the negativity is already being canceled out by people who are with it enough to understand this stuff at this point. People are understanding that it's all a big joke. And they're actually wondering if Trump and Elon are just pretending. And they're just creating this fight for some reason. Well, what would the reason be? Are they exposing all of those people who are still anti-Trump, but glommed on to the so-called conservative movement now? They call themselves conservative, is how I should have said it. They're not really MAGA. I don't know, man. Getting interesting. All right, maybe we will leave Elon for now and come back to him at some point in the future when we know more. And I, by the way, might not be doing a show until, and probably won't be doing a show until Tuesday afternoon. I will be on DPH on Saturday, on Devolution Power Hour, on Badlands at 10:30 Eastern at night. So if substantial things happen between now and then, John and I will, of course, talk about them. And then otherwise, I'll be back on Tuesday. Now, I'm not closing the show, just making a note so that all you good people know. Aussie Mix 73 on Rumble, $10. Just wanted to say, great interview yesterday. Loved it. I do hope you do some more of those. Very cool. Hearing people from other parts of the world on the same page as us. It's hope. Thanks, Chris. I agree with you. Another rant, $5 from Aussie Mix. I actually listened to the whole show in under 24 hours just wanted to get an Una Panuna Banca in, and it is so good that you did.
Una panuna banca.
Can't get enough. You just can't get enough. It's a craze. We could make Una Paloma Blanca the summer hit that everyone has been waiting for. The summer song everyone's been waiting for is Una Paloma Blanca. And when you listen to that wonderful song, just know that it's Una Panuna Banca and it's about Anna Paulina Luna. All right, let's move on to some other tech stuff. And man, I don't know if we're going to get to Russia and China and all of that cool stuff. There's so much court stuff. I could have probably done 3 episodes today, which makes rocks cry out, right? I could have gone 5 hours, but you can't do that. So we've been talking a bunch about Palantir, and I made actually a compilation video the other day of my long segments about Palantir from my 2 prior podcasts and our Devolution Power Hour from Saturday. So if you want to get the big picture on what I think about Palantir and Peter Thiel and what's going on, check all of that out. But the long and short of it is Palantir was said to have won this Defense Department contract, and what they were going to do was collate, essentially bring all of the information from all of these various government entities together under Trump's purview, something that would make total sense in the government that he has to oversee all of. Okay. And so the problem is that Palantir was coming in to do it. Now, I believe that all of our data was already held by the worst possible people in the world in a centralized hub where they could analyze it via algorithm, an algorithm that would know us better than we know ourselves. Okay. Because they're getting all of our information all the time. The government agencies probably have less information, but we're just supposed to believe they're going to put all our tax numbers and our social security numbers together and all of that. Okay. So Palantir knows everything about you. Look at the date on this. April 19th, 2018. This is Bloomberg. Peter Thiel's data mining company is using war on terror tools to track American citizens. The scary thing, Palantir is desperate for new customers. Okay, well, war on terror tools, we know that in 2020, organizations like Defeat Disinfo, run by General Stanley McChrystal, took the tech-based anti-terrorism apparatus that was used in the Middle East and used to start the Arab Spring, and they turned it inward on the United States of America and the people of the U.S. to censor us, to propagandize us, to control the collective consciousness, and get us to behave in whatever ways necessary for their program to continue being implemented. And many of us were direct victims and targets, maybe is a better word, of that campaign. Let's just capture the real substance here in the second paragraph. Aided by as many as 120 forward-deployed engineers from the data mining company Palantir Technologies, which JP Morgan engaged in 2009, Kavickia's group vacuumed up emails and browser histories, GPS locations from company-issued smartphones, printer and download activity, and transcripts of digitally recorded phone conversations. Palantir's software aggregated, searched, sorted, and analyzed these records, surfacing keywords and patterns of behavior that Kavickia's team had flagged for potential abuse of corporate assets. Palantir's algorithm, for example, alerted the insider threat team when an employee started badging into work later than usual, a sign of potential disgruntlement. That would trigger further scrutiny and possibly physical surveillance after hours by bank security personnel. And that's the sort of work they were doing. And we've talked about these data companies doing that sort of work before on this podcast. And I often share this story when we do. Back in, 2019, maybe, I don't think 2020, but maybe 2020. I think 2019. I had lunch with a guy who does marketing data research for the film production companies. And they had so much data on everybody that they could tell with a 90 plus, maybe even 95% plus degree of certainty who was going to be divorced in the next 6 months. And they would do that based on people's habits changing, that all of a sudden they were starting to spend nights at the same location that wasn't their house. And they could look up what that location was and the rest of it, of course, because all the location data is tracked. They know when you have adopted a different routine, even if it's just you're shopping at a different grocery store and going to a different coffee shop, the time that you do things throughout the day or throughout the week, all these patterns have changed. Therefore, we can probably assume that different parts of life have changed. And they were able to track that stuff so well that they could tell that people were getting divorced often before people knew they were getting divorced. So we know that these capabilities are out there. We know that they've been in the world for a long time. And we know that Palantir, of course, is at the forefront of this kind of technology. That being said, that article was in 2018. And now it's a problem because Donald Trump is in office and Trump is the one engaging Palantir. Well, Palantir has the same origin story that many of these tech companies have, which is that the intel community and the Defense Department started them. Okay, so all these companies are in the same domain, generally speaking, and should be thought of the same as, in some sense, quasi-governmental. We can't just ignore that fact. So understanding all that, it's just becoming a problem now. We talked a little bit last time about a Palantir employee who had decided to leave the company. Here is another former Palantir employee. This is Wendy Anderson in a Twitter thread from June 3rd. Wendy R. Anderson on Twitter. After spending almost 6 years at Palantir, I know something about what they do and what they don't do. As a result, I want to address the inaccuracies in the 6:30 New York Times article that's been picked up by multiple outlets this week. And I think she means 5:30 as in May 30th. In this thread, I speak solely for myself. I departed Palantir in April and will share my new chapter soon. My purpose here is simple: to call for honest and accurate reporting, especially in an era increasingly shaped by distortion and disinformation. Plenty of people have valid criticisms of Palantir. I at times raised concerns while there, as the culture encourages. I believe in speaking up. I also believe in getting the facts right and straight. Criticize what you find problematic, but start with the truth. Inaccuracy number 1. The headline, quote, Trump taps Palantir to compile data on Americans, end quote, is fundamentally wrong. Palantir doesn't do that. They provide software that helps organizations analyze data those organizations already possess. Inaccuracy number 2. The article suggests Palantir is building a master database. That's not how Foundry works. It's a data integration platform that connects to existing systems. Read more about Foundry here. And there's an article from the Palantir.com website about their platform, Foundry. And you can look at the logo right there, a circle with kind of, some angle that seems to hold the circle up. I don't know. It's like it's holding a crystal ball. It actually does look kind of like a little platform holding a crystal ball. And maybe that's what it is. But my point is that logo seems like it was designed by the same design team that has designed the X logo, the Starlink logo, the Grok logo, and all of that. They're all very similar. Just a very small white symbol on a totally black plane. Inaccuracy number 3. We could easily merge data on Americans, or which could easily merge data on Americans. That's a quote from the Times article. This framing makes standard enterprise data integration sound sinister. Many companies and government agencies use similar tools to work with data across multiple systems. This isn't unique or nefarious technology. And that's the point I've been making this entire time. There's nothing necessarily nefarious about any of this. The government already has all that information. Having them put it in one place is not a threat. Okay? Particularly because prior to Trump, the government was only deep state, only uniparty, and they were probably centralizing all of that information outside of the government structure, maybe through these corporations. And it's entirely possible that there is good twin, evil twin inside Palantir, inside Amazon, inside Twitter, inside Starlink, inside all of these companies, right? And maybe, the newer ones are less prone to this, but we heard from that leftist woman who had left Palantir. She was working on humanitarian aid, and the AIDS crisis sounded directly linked into USAID. And she was at Palantir. So it's entirely possible that they have some of these government programs in order to be able to fund the other government programs that the government actually needs Palantir to do, or the Defense Department needs Palantir to do. And maybe the regime, to the extent they can, they try to even that out or offset it or implement their agenda while they know the system is also being used to destroy them. All these things are possible and should be kept in mind when we're trying to figure out. My dog's getting excited. Hopefully that is not too loud here. We'll probably keep going for a while. There's got to be a car or something around, and he has to protect the house, which he does very well. He's a good boy. So there's not anything necessarily nefarious about what's going on. You have to keep that in mind, okay? You can't just see headlines, Trump administration is compiling all the data with Palantir, and then freak out. You've already given up all your privacy, all right? I get it. Same thing as the budget deficits and the debt. I understand what the principle is. I totally get the principle. It would be better if no one had our data. But instead, we've all given away all of our data. And if we know that the government has our data and the corporations have our data, and that the government and the corporations want to exploit us through our data, the only smart and responsible thing to do, understanding that all that data could be released at some point, the only smart and responsible thing to do is to try to live and communicate and operate with these tools in a way that you would not be ashamed of other people knowing. All right? And if we are living good, moral lives and trying to please God, we would not be doing things in the first place that other people would be, that we would be ashamed of if other people found out. Okay? All humans do gross stuff, right? Stuff we do is gross. Everybody does that. But in terms of our morality and how we treat other people, how we handle our business, how, what kind of person we are that other people don't know about, everybody's got to have that reconciled, because that's the only way to actually defend ourselves against this problem. Important to remember, regardless, that the technology itself is not the nefarious part. It's how it's used. The article seems to, inaccuracy number 4, the article seems to conflate what software can do with what it is doing. Yes, data integration tools can theoretically be misused. So can Excel, SQL databases, or any data tool. The article provides no evidence of misuse, only fear about possibilities. That's exactly right. Inaccuracy number 5. Describing routine government IT modernization as surveillance infrastructure. Agencies updating their data systems and analytic capabilities is normal. Palantir hasn't said they're a data processor, not a data controller. This is the accurate statement. Palantir has said they're a data processor, not a data controller. That was in the New York Times. She says clients define what data is accessed and how it's used. This is a crucial distinction the article glosses over while creating surveillance panic. Again, Palantir does not collect, store, or sell personal data. The article takes standard enterprise software functionality and frames it as dangerous surveillance tech. It's like writing a scary article about Excel because it could be used to track Americans if someone put personal data in spreadsheets. And that is, I think, a very accurate and fair comparison. It really is that far overboard. Palantir is a company in a democracy with a robust First Amendment. Now, she kind of really defeats her own credibility with that statement, right? We do not have a robust First Amendment, and the idea that we are in a democracy is totally irrelevant. Of course, there are legitimate things to scrutinize and criticize, as with any company, from contracts to clients to strategy. Dr. Karp himself, that's Alex Karp, has said countless times, we built Palantir with the idea that dissent is not only acceptable, but required. But don't misrepresent what their software does. Facts matter. Now, I don't know that we can believe Alex Karp when he says that, but we can at least analyze it as though it's possibly true. And that is ultimately the point. And that's the point I've been making consistently about this tech stuff and the tech oligarchs in charge of this stuff for the last few years. We have to be able to determine what their actual agenda is and what the moral basis for that agenda is, right? We got to look at all the sides to try to figure that out, because it's not good enough to have one example of a person doing a thing we like and then say, well, that person's bad, and now all we do is analyze that person as bad, right? That's not enough. It's a very immature way to handle things. And of course, that's the way the normie conversation goes on Twitter. Well, that guy used to work with George Soros. Okay, well, that's definitely a relevant piece of information, but it's definitely not the only relevant piece of information. And it doesn't suggest anything about what the agenda of that person is now on this day, okay? Because Scott Besson was a Soros person, and he seems to be doing exactly what Trump wants him to do. And he seems to be handling the media well. He seems to be an honest man. He seems to be highly competent. So, what is he? Maybe he was a plant in that organization the whole time, just to figure out how the organization operated. It could have been substantially more than that. He could have been morally and ethically committed to George Soros's cause and then still changed his mind and be something different now, which is why we're trying to understand these people in full and what it is they actually care about and whether or not their purported beliefs are being implemented in the products they put out into the world. And again, Elon Musk can say all the nice things about free speech and about Donald Trump, but his site's not a free speech site. And now he's not saying nice things about Trump anymore. And again, we talked about the kayfabe and stuff, but all of these things always have to be factored in. And we're just going to keep that running story in our heads as reality emerges. So we can say, okay, now we have this new piece of information. We're going to layer that onto the information that we've already analyzed. How does this new piece of information fit in what we've already analyzed? Did we get something wrong in our analysis? Is there something questionable about this new information? All that needs to be hashed out. Okay? It's not just good enough to play secret white hats and secret black hats, or play match online, or understand these people are helping because they say they're helping. It's not good enough. Let's keep going. I mentioned briefly the AI bit in the big, beautiful bill that Marjorie Taylor Greene and others went after this week. The idea would be that the federal government was taking away from the states ability to regulate AI. I don't think anyone should regulate AI. I just want to say that from the beginning. Would you trust government officials to determine how a tool that powerful would be used? And what would make anyone think that that government wouldn't immediately be using that power to increase its own power and regulating in such a way that the people serving its power would have enough loopholes to do the work that they needed to do, while the people would be told this problem is solved because we've got these regulations. You know what? We pass them in a bipartisan way because we understand this threat is so big, and all we, the government, are trying to do is protect you. Of course that wouldn't happen, okay? And of course we shouldn't trust it because we've already seen them do it with social media. And they use social media to censor us. The First Amendment says they can't do that, but they did it. How did that happen? Why would we trust them to regulate AI? That said, how can you make it? How can Trump make it so that the federal government cannot regulate AI, which is what it should be? The federal government should not be setting AI standards for the country. Okay? AI exists in the world, and people are going to have to contend with it, figure out how to use it, or figure out how to move past it, right? But what we can't do is empower the governments to influence it more than they are, because we know how that would end. All right? So if you wanted to make sure that that couldn't happen and you were Donald Trump, and you knew that you could make that conversation, this conversation that's happening in the world, happen, then perhaps you would come out in support of something like that, taking all the ability to regulate away from the states so that people with megaphones come out after having already voted for the bill and saying, well, this AI thing, this can't stand. We're seeing that now, and that's good because the federal government shouldn't be regulating AI, and neither should the states. But to the extent that anyone is, it should be fragmented and decentralized as much as possible. It should be to the states. But let's say that our government was going to regulate AI as if that was totally possible. Would other governments around the world regulate it? And if we regulated it and they didn't, which would mean that their AI just has the opportunity to do more things, which for the same reasons as the intellectual kids table problem would create new opportunities for them because they are taking a more holistic approach, not simply just cutting certain parts of the conversation, certain parts of the process off through the application of law through abstract power. All of that would be crazy. They would be creating advantages relative to us that entire time because we had chosen to handcuff ourselves while they did not. The AI thing is often talked about the same way as the nuclear race, the nuclear arms race was talked about. We're going to have a new AI Cold War, perhaps. Wait till they start selling that one. That's where it's going. So we got to get the regulation away from the federal government. Trump can spark a controversy, make everyone have backlash against that part. Even Trump supporters are like, you know what? That part can definitely go. It's a good thing we're having this discussion. Hey, guys, lay off Trump. Don't be ridiculous. But the AI thing, yeah, get rid of that. Fine, that can go. That's a good discussion. That's very productive, I think. So speaking of AI, we went through the Door Brothers video last week, and they have released another one. And so I just want to share that with you. And then I'm just going to allow this to play for about 3 minutes, and then we'll be back.
Artists. That's why we gave them the opportunity to license their style for exposure.
Are you worried AI will cause job loss?
I already fired everyone months ago.
We've always been nonprofit in spirit. The revenue just ensures that spirit can thrive.
Do you think AI is replacing real creativity?
Only the kind that can't make money.
Before we get to that, could someone explain what a prompt is again?
We didn't replace the artists. We simply freed them from the burden of relevance.
Honestly, the responsible AI pitch worked way better than I thought. We doubled valuation just by putting a dove in the logo.
AI equals God.
People ask if generative art replaces artists. I don't think so. I think it replaces the need to pay them.
This track was made in under 3 seconds using the power of the future.
We don't just build AI, we build ethical AI, which means we let it steal art respectfully.
The real question isn't what AI can do, it's what you can do with our freemium plan, unlimited tiers, and forced yearly renewals.
These aren't employees, they're dreamers. And when they nap, we collect their neural data. It's all consent-based. They clicked agree on the coffee machine.
This is how I made $11.42 passively using ChatGPT and a dropshipping store. Step 1, believe.
My AI startup doesn't do anything, but we're very clear about that. That's the product. Radical transparency.
AI-powered cornflakes. The future of breakfast is here.
Real flavor, real crunch, zero actual intelligence. But it's got AI in the name.
We're proud to introduce the world's first sentient HR department. It fired itself this morning.
We messed up. We accidentally erased every photo of your dead relatives. But the important thing is, we learned.
Before AI, I had no idea what I was doing. Now I sell 12 prompts for $99 and coach executives on how to say AI-powered and human-centric in every sentence.
It's not just a giraffe. This is a manifestation of my soul through algorithmic divinity. I merely whisper, and Midjourney obeys.
Honestly, I don't even need Photoshop anymore. I didn't even draw this. The AI just felt my vibe.
I used to be a banker. Now I sell AI-generated portraits of narcissists with six-packs for $400 each. Art is finally democratic.
It's not about replacing jobs. It's about reducing the number of people who think they need one.
Do I look humble enough? Okay, I got this. You're important. You're the king. You are God.
Prompt engineering is a spiritual path. You simply must vibe with the machine, or it will not manifest the yacht.
We've earned our daily dose of hate mail, wouldn't you agree?
You're next, Crunch Boy.
All AI. Those guys are fantastic. Another interesting AI video. This stuff just blows my mind. This is X, formerly Twitter. Hold for processing. Here we are. This new AI company called Bland is going viral after releasing this video showing their futuristic and intimidating AI that is able to perfectly clone your voice to the point it's as if it is able to capture your soul with a brief MP3 file, I think is what that was supposed to say. There are several voice cloning AI, but the sheer accuracy of the tone, cadence, and even pronunciation is uncanny. Let's take a look.
We're excited to present to you today, after extensive red teaming, our most recent breakthrough. Why are we so excited? Because you didn't even realize it's not actually me talking. Today, we're announcing our new hyper-realistic text-to-speech engine. It's capable of one-shot style transfer, and it's live right now. Let me show you what that means. To get started, you can use our API to generate individual lines, plug it into your platform, or in this case, use it directly inside Bland. Here, you can clone any voice.
Hi, Isaiah.
Sound effect. Pronunciation.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
And even any style.
So now they will see how good these can be with a little extra shine.
But why do we care if an AI can sing? Let's break it down. It's not just that our voices are capable of cloning with the expressiveness and realism that you saw earlier. You can give them a single example, and our voices can blend the expressiveness and tone of that example. In this case, singing. That's fundamentally what one-shot style transfer is. So what does that mean for your business? Well, let's imagine you have the greatest sales associate of all time. You can now take a recording of how they talk.
Let's catch up after the meeting.
Mix it with our text-to-speech, and the model will output audio that will mimic the salesperson while talking in the voice you want. We can then use that style, voice, and sound effect in our conversation pathway tab to handle something like inbound sales calls. So let's send ourselves one.
Is this Isaiah? This is Blandy. I just saw you were interested in us and just wanted to give you a ring back.
Oh, hey, Blindy. Could you tell me a little bit more about what you do?
Great question. Right now, businesses and developers mainly use me to create their own AI agents to handle millions of interactions across web chat, SMS, and phone calls 24/7.
That's pretty cool. I know you know this is our announcement, so honestly, I'm just going to leave it with you from here. Good luck.
All right, Isaiah, here it goes. Today, we've crossed the uncanny valley of voice. We'll be seeing more AIs like myself than ever. Call my number or head to bland.com and you'll see why.
Pretty soon, they're just going to be able to make us. Will you guys know that it's my podcast? We're entering a very strange world. And because we are getting to the point where it is becoming very difficult using our senses, our eyes, our ears, to be able to determine whether or not something is true or false, whether it's real or somehow otherwise generated, we end up having to fall back to more foundational and hopefully objective things to compare everything to, right? Do I know that this is true or false? Well, no, I can't possibly know that. But what I know is if I step back from that, I care about truth. I have an understanding of what the world is and what it's supposed to be. I have this objective morality because of my faith. I understand what's right and what's wrong. And everything gets compared to that standard. Because the old standard was, as we talked about before, whether it appears on the television, whether it appears on social media, whether all of your peers agree that something is true. And then it just becomes only social incentives and what those social incentives are. And that determines what people believe. And that's what we've been accustomed to as a standard, not comparing it to anything objective, not comparing it to an objective morality, having a standard by which we measure other things. Instead, we just figure out which authority should be trusted based on our concerns, how we see the world, how we see the reputation of that person, and we form a belief like that. And we're worried, even though we do that all the time and are totally accustomed to it and expect everyone else to do it too, we still worry that we're not going to be able to tell whether or not a video is real or whether or not a voice is real. Hey, here you go. Assume that it's not real. Assume that all of it's not real. And see if your life changes at all in any worse way. I can tell you right now that there has been no downside whatsoever for me not attaching myself emotionally to any of these stories for the last 4.5 years. You can see that it's not really true, or maybe I wasn't sure that I didn't get all the way there at that point, maybe 4 years, 3.5 years, whatever it is. Okay, I'm not trying to give myself extra credit or anything like that. But when I assume that none of the things that are proven, that all of these things which have no proof attached to them, and that none of the people purporting to know these things can prove it either, when I assume that those things are probably fake and I will continue on believing they're fake until they're proven real, there hasn't been one time, not once, that has come back to bite me. Why is that? Well, you could say that because all of it is fake, but even if parts of it were real, the fact that that is the starting point roots us in first principles and something more foundational. And so we can get predictions wrong. I'm not saying I'm always right. I'm not saying all my reads on situations are right. I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying that again and again and again, people who adopt strong viewpoints about all these subjects get rugged. There's a reason for that. It's because the narratives are fake, being reported and analyzed by the fake news, and people are adopting those because they're unwilling to say that's not real. And now we're seeing that absolutely every single bit of it can be fake. And we're just assuming that it's not being faked, that we're not getting hoodwinked by the stuff we're seeing online. Why would that be the case? All of the most powerful people, not all of them, actually, we can hope that there are good, powerful people on our side. But the most powerful people in the world, the ones who have developed these tools and use them to control societies, do not have this extra incentive to provide you the truth so you can guide your life. They are creating a false reality on purpose so that you will participate in it. Let's keep going. OpenAI, this is Reuters from just this afternoon. OpenAI finds more Chinese groups using ChatGPT for malicious purposes. Oh no! OpenAI is seeing an increasing number of Chinese groups using its artificial intelligence technology for covert operations, which the ChatGPT maker described in a report released Thursday. While the scope and tactics employed by these groups have expanded, the operations detected were generally small in scale and targeted limited audiences, the San Francisco-based startup said. Since ChatGPT burst onto the scene in late 2022, there have been concerns about the potential consequences of generative AI technology, which can quickly and easily produce human-like text, imagery, and audio. OpenAI regularly releases reports on malicious activity it detects on its platform, such as creating and debugging malware or generating fake content for websites and social media platforms. So now China is using the AI technology for bad things. What would the solution be, according to the regime? Well, we've got to regulate it. We just talked about that. What else can they do? And if not for the cause of getting to regulate AI technology, why would we be seeing stories like this? Well, the technology's out there, okay? People who are not nefarious can use that technology, and people who are nefarious can use that technology. Just like guns or knives or hammers or cars. It's a technology that is out there in the world. Sometimes bad people will use that technology to do bad things. But AI, well, that's much scarier. So these Chinese who are doing this now, they're probably trying to play joke and go pee-pee in our Coke or something. That's scary. The Chinese already have their own version of OpenAI. It's called DeepSeek, and it might be better than our version. And they're keeping it open source, whereas our version, we're told, is not open source, even though they're probably the same thing and started like, I think of AI like a sourdough starter. Like it's going to be in everything eventually. Like it all just starts from that same point. Doesn't matter how many times you make it. It's still got that at its foundation. And they're the same thing. So what are we talking about with this freak out? Then we also have this freak out. And let me see how many freakouts we have before we're going to go for today. Let's do 2 more freakouts. Or one of them is actually a resolution to a freakout, so that's not so bad. This is from the Future Stacked, and let's have some fun with this, okay? Like we don't have to take this overly seriously. Although, take it as however you want. The robot takeover is happening quicker than most realize. From fueling stations to fast food and building sites, automation is already stepping in. Here are 10 mind-blowing cases you cannot afford to miss. So let's see if I can get all this in. Well, maybe this will work. Here we are.
With this robot, it is possible to steal a car easily. Made in China, this robot is designed to properly park cars in parking lots. It simply slides under a vehicle, extends its arms to secure the rear wheels, then moves to the other end to grasp the front wheels. It then closes its clamps to lift the car and gently transport it to the designated spot. This robot is also used by the Chinese police to better organize parking in the streets.
Well, that's really something, huh? I can't wait to get one of those. It's probably better than calling a tow truck. I can't be totally mad at it. Number 2, Zippy, the Michelin star robot chef. Trained on 5 million plus recipes, Zippy can cook for world-class chefs. And by the way, it's worth understanding that all of these videos could have been generated by AI. But it's also very clever and fun to watch. So, great song. The remix, we can pass on the remix, but Sade, the Deftones actually did a great cover of this song. Definitely worth listening to. This video will also get me kicked off YouTube until I delete it, so whatever. We're basically watching a robot with 2 robot hands make I don't know, what is that, a salsa or something? A dish in a pan, a soup. I don't know what they're making, but that's pretty incredible. Maybe we don't need to go through all 10 of these, but I just think they're fun. Here we are. Road sign building robot. This is a short one. What in the world? That is a terrible video. Mini robot dealing playing cards, perfect for casinos and home games. Does this really count as a robot? I guess it kind of does. Imagine that. Gosh, what do they think of next? Robot night service at a gas station in Hangzhou. Wow. All right. We can leave that aside. I'm going to have to clip so many. I'm going to have YouTube's AI algorithm clip out all of these clips because of the music. It's going to be very annoying. Let's just move on. And by the way, we're not getting to Russia and China today. Maybe if I can find a point tomorrow, I'll drop in another hour stream or something to hit that stuff because I know that it is super important, but this is the subject of the day. FTC expands antitrust probe into ad industry groups over alleged demonetization, censorship, collusion. This is from Reclaim the Net on Tuesday. Federal antitrust investigation into the coordinated efforts of advocacy groups and advertising coalitions has gained momentum as the Federal Trade Commission sharpens its focus on whether Media Matters for America and its allies may have worked together to isolate Elon Musk's X platform through organized advertiser withdrawals. The probe is focused on whether these groups crossed legal boundaries while attempting to impose their content standards on platforms through economic pressure. So the administration is going after the groups that targeted Elon Musk's X. And Elon's also just washing his hands of the Trump administration. They're not even friends anymore. He's going to start blowing up his rockets just to spite Donald Trump and all of us. Reclaim the Net previously reported that the FTC is not only examining Media Matters, but also sending document demands to nearly a dozen other organizations tied to the ad industry and media oversight. All right, so they're going after some of the demonetization efforts. I think the ADL was directly involved with that. And I really wish that I had time for the Russia and China thing, but I don't. So we're going to have to leave that for another day. The story's going to develop. We'll probably talk a little bit about it on, or maybe a lot about it on Devolution over the weekend, but I will leave you with this. The rumor now Trump had a phone call with Putin yesterday, a phone call with Xi today. He said very nice things about both of them. Yesterday, the freak out was that Russia was going to be able to retaliate against Ukraine. Ukraine had escalated with the audacious attack. And so now Russia was going to hit them even harder. And Donald Trump seemed to agree that that was okay. That's terrible. Donald Trump is terrible. Then he talks to Xi. He said Xi's a nice guy yesterday. Today, he has a phone call with him. Xi invited Trump to China. Trump invited Xi to America. So he's on great terms with both of them. They both back Iran. They both back one another and all these other countries. Trump is making a deal with Iran for nuclear stuff with all those Middle Eastern countries he was with just a couple weeks ago. Turkey has offered to host the United States, Russia, and Ukraine to settle the whole Ukraine thing. Well, Vladimir Putin is offering to help mediate between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. It's almost as good as when Elon Musk threatened to fight Nicolas Maduro and launch him in a rocket ship to Mars. It's all fake. Don't know what else to say about it. It's fake. But here's the thing. Even if it's real, even if somehow it's real, doesn't matter because we're analyzing it in both ways. We are prepared for both outcomes, understanding that one is far more likely than the other. And the effect of it being real will play out in the population who believes it. And then they will get rugged. And we know that story is happening there. We have very good reason to believe that's what's happening. We've seen that story happen a great many times. And rather than applying that framing to everything, we determine that we can tell which stuff is real and which stuff is fake. No, you can't. Okay? And this is a celebrity breakup story. We've seen celebrity breakup stories before. We know how they go. They break up, they get back together. They break up, they get back together. And the drama plays out in public. The drama is now playing out in public. And we are actually learning things about all of these people from this drama as it plays out. And we will, as always, steer the thing to a better place. That's the point. Whatever cards we are dealt by some weird robot, we play those cards better because we're doing the right things. And we're analyzing these things in a logical, rational, reasonable, first principles and faith orientation, while other people are figuring out how to score points online. And with that, I will attempt to do another show. I can't promise you I'm going to. Probably just going to have to catch up with me on DPH on Saturday night. Otherwise, I will be back Tuesday at the same reasonable time on the same reasonable podcast network. I don't have a network. Masks and lockdowns don't work. They lied to you about a pandemic, and Joe Biden was never president.
Well,
what?
You know who I am, don't you?
Well, you ain't Fiona Apple, and if you ain't Fiona Apple, I don't give a rat's ass.
What's wrong with being an angry prophet denouncing the hypocrisies of our times? What do you think, Max?
Do you want to be an angry prophet denouncing the hypocrisies of our times?
Yeah, I think I'd like to be an angry prophet denouncing the hypocrisies of our times.
It's not true. It's more true than I would perhaps prefer.
Can we stop this cruel game and allow the boy to keep one shred of dignity? For God's sakes! I can't stand to see him in all this pain! You vicious bastards! Let him move in with you! Is it so bad to see somebody happy? So just let him move in! For the love of God, let the boy move in with you! Good Lord!
And I will not let you down.
We do a little trolling. It's called We Do a Little Trolling. But must be won.
In my mind, that's the end game.
If you're listening for free and would like to support the show, the best way to do that is by signing up for a paid subscription at imyourmoderator.substack.com. You can find the info stream over on Telegram at t.me/veryreasonable. The merch site is cancelcouture.com, and for all my other links, you can visit linktree.com/imyourmoderator. And I'll see you soon. Down on the range.